So today I am giving my talk on computer vision. So today I will give my talk on topic computer vision and machine learning, overview, challenges and research areas. So these are the various contents that I will cover in this talk. I think many of participants know about machine and deep learning. So I will just give a brief introduction and the starting of deep learning, the concept of convolutional neural network in case of computer vision. So what is computer vision? What are the various challenges in this computer vision? What is the system of computer vision? Why machine learning and deep learning are used in this computer vision? Then how deep learning is different from machine learning? All these topics I will cover in this talk. So, first of all, what is computer vision? If we say computer vision is just a field that includes methods for acquiring, processing, analyzing, and understanding images. So, we can say just whenever we say computer vision, it is just like the human vision. We want that the computer should duplicate the abilities of human vision. All of we know what is human vision, that is whatever is present in the real world. From real world we see something and from that we understand something. So same thing is here, that is computer vision duplicates the abilities of human vision by electronically perceiving and understanding an image. So now what is the theory behind this computer vision? Just building artificial system that obtain information from images. As we know in this world, we want that everything should be automatic. Computer should behave like a human. So the most and the major ability of human is vision. So if we want that is computer should behave like human, then computer should also have the same ability that the humans have, and the major ability of humans is vision. So we want to computer vision to be possible. But if we see how computer vision is different from human vision, if we see this image in this slide, then if this image is seen by a human, then the human being just will see how many people are present in this photograph, who is present in this photograph, and why this photograph is important. But when the same image is fed into the computer, now what the computer will see? The computer will see only the pixel values. That is what is present in this image in the form of intensities. So computer will see only these intensity values. Now how computer can process these intensity values just to understand this image? So you can see human vision is an amazing feature of natural intelligence. Human brain is more devoted to vision than anything else. And in case of computer vision, it is a one to many mapping. One image can interpret different meanings. So same image is there, same pixel values are there, then what you want to see in this image, what type of information you want to acquire from this image, then that means one to many mapping will be there. So it is very difficult for a computer to behave like a human. So we can say machines cannot replicate human image recognition. They do not possess the ability to recognize even distorted images. So that is why we say computer vision is difficult. Why computer vision is difficult? Because we there are a number of reasons. The first of reason is loss of information from three-dimensional to two-dimensional. As we see in case of real world, the real world is three-dimensional. Whatever we see in three dimensions. But when we capture the images, all these 3D scenes are converted into two-dimensional scenes. So we can say whenever a 3D data is converted into 2D data, then a lot of information will be lost. So then that means it can be difficult to recognize or to understand the same data which is in two dimension, but actually it was in three dimension. Now, next point is interpretation of image. As I have already discussed, that is same image can give different type of interpretations depending upon your requirement. For example, if in a scene a number of people are there, a number of vehicles are there, and you want to recognize only vehicle number plate, then the main concentration is only the numbers written in that number plate. But if from the same image you want to see which type of who is present in the image, which person is present in the image, then at that time the number plate doesn't have any meaning. So same image can give different meanings. So it is very difficult for a computer to process or to interpret different meanings from the same image. It is difficult, but it is, we cannot say it is impossible. So machine learning and deep learning fields are coming to solve these type of problems that we will discuss. Just an overview of all these techniques in this lecture. Now, next is noise. What is noise? For example, if a particular example is there, if I have a OCR system, optical character recognition. That is, I have a just document, and from that document I want to understand something. But if some noise is present in the image, some scanning problem is there in your scanner, like this, that is some black pixels are there, extra, some noise is there, then computer cannot understand that this is just a noise. Computer will also try to interpret the pixels having noise, but human being can easily understand that is, this is nothing, this is just noise. Now next is too much data. Now if we say a single image, as in today's world we are considering high resolution images. High resolution images means many number of pixels. If many number of pixels and we are storing colored images, then that means red, green and blue channels. Then that means to store that image we need too much space, and whenever we want to process that data, then that means we have to do a lot of computations. As I think most of that is, if you want to learn deep learning concept, you need the concept of GPUs, graphic processor units. Rather, if you use simple CPU, then it will take a number of days to train your system. Then that means a lot of computations are there whenever you want to process these images with the help of computers. Next is brightness method. Next challenge is brightness method. Now see again, if we have an image but in different environmental conditions. For example, the same scene has been captured at the daytime and same scene has been captured at the night time, then a human being clearly understand that is, this is the same picture but captured in different lighting conditions. But for computer it is very difficult, because what is stored in computer? Only intensity values. So same scene is having different intensity values when captured in different environmental conditions. So this is again a major challenge in case of computer vision. Now next is local window versus need for global view. Now see, as we have seen in this image, whenever a human being sees this image, the human being sees the whole image as such, but the computer cannot see the whole image as such. It has to process individually pixel, each pixel individually. Then that means local view. Computer has a local view, but we want a global view. That means uh, human being whenever sees any image, he sees that image as a globally, but computer sees the image as locally. So the computer will process each and every individual pixel, but we want global view. So local window versus no need for global view. So these are some reasons that, or you can say, the computer vision is difficult. But today's fields, AI field, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, these are coming into era to overcome these challenges. So before going to machine learning and deep learning, I want to explain here what are the major phases in case of computer vision. What are the different stages to make computer vision possible? So this is the whole, you can say, the stages for a computer vision system. First of all, we can see any problem domain. For example, any problem domain means whether you want to process medical images, whether you want to process agricultural images, whether you want to process document images, depending upon your problem domain. First is image acquisition is done, that is, image is acquired. Now, again, this image can be acquired using different hardware. For example, you can use mobile cameras, you can use other type of cameras, you can use scanner, you can use just for medical images, MRI machines, etc. Any image acquisition hardware can be there. After acquiring the image, the next phase is image enhancement. That is, whenever you acquire any image, the image cannot be in the condition that the computer can understand that image as it is. Then that means the quality of the image can be poor. So some type of enhancement techniques you want to apply on those images to improve the quality of those images. For example, here you can see this is just an image, and after enhancement, the image is like this. So it is easy to process this image, to understand this image, rather than to just understand the image on the left hand side. Now next is image restoration. What is image restoration? It is just like image enhancement. But see, image enhancement is the subjective type of enhancement, or you can say subjective criteria is there to improve the quality, but here it is objective. Then that means, what is objective means, here you have quantitative parameters. That is, if you know that your hardware is having such type of problem. For example, if we say particular example, if we say transmission, when we transfer the images from the sender to the receiver, in today's world a lot of images are just transferring on the this your transmission system on your net. So we can say when the images are transferred, then due to electromagnetic interference of the transmission media at the receiver side, you didn't get the same image, but you know at the sender side you have sent this type of image. So at the receiver side, same type of image should be received. Then that means some type of noise has been added due to some transmission media. So then that means at that time, if you want to improve the quality of the image, now you know what is the actual image and what you have received, so you can get the error in terms of PSNR, SSIM. There are a number of performance matrices here. But in case of image enhancement, it is only a subjective type. You do not know what type of images you want. You can only see, by seeing you can see this is a good quality image, but here some quantitative parameters are there. So image enhancement and image restoration are just to improve the quality of the images. Now next is morphological processing. Basically, if we say what is morphological is just to say, to see the structure, to see the form of an image. So a number of morphological operations are there, like opening, closing, erosion and dilation. By using these type of processing, you can get features of the image, and even you can enhance the quality of the image. So whether I have been placed morphological processing after image restoration and before segmentation, but basically this morphological processing can be used in any phase. It can be used in image enhancement also, it can be used in segmentation also, and it can be used in object recognition also. So after this, we have segmentation. Now, when we have enhanced the quality of the image, after that, we want to segment the image. Segment the image means, again, what part of the image we want to understand. As I have discussed one example, that is, if a scene is there, a number of people are there, and in that image, one vehicle is there, and you want to recognize a number plate, then that means now the major region of interest is your number plate. But if you want to recognize the person, then your region of interest is that person. Then that means segmentation is just whatever the portion you want to understand, to segment that portion from the whole image. For example, if a face is there, you want to identify a person with the help of ear, then you have to segment ear from the whole face. If you want to just identify that person with the help of iris recognition, then you have to segment iris portion from the whole image. So this is just segmentation, that is to segment the desired region of interest from the whole image. Now next is representation and description. When your region of interest has been extracted, then after that you want to represent that region of interest so that you can get desirable features from that image. Now again, a number of feature extraction techniques are there. Yeah, you can say statistical features are there, Gabor features are there, morphological features are there, gradient features are there, LBP, histogram of gradients. So whatever the feature you want to extract, you have to represent the your image, your region of interest according to that. And then after represent, you will get those descriptors. From the descriptor, for example, here the image has been represented to get its chain code. I will not go into detail of this because a number of feature extraction techniques are there. I am just giving an overview. That is, you have to represent your image according to your interest, that is what type of feature you want to extract. First you have to convert your region of interest according to that feature extraction, then you will apply your feature extraction technique and get the features. Now next is, after extracting those features, you will recognize means, that means you will identify. For example, in this case, a person identification has been done, that is, this person belongs to this id, this person belongs to this id, this person. Now for object recognition, again you can apply machine learning. Now if we see, these are just the phases for computer vision. Other than this, there are two other type of operations that can be performed on images. One is the color image processing, and one is the image compression. Image compression is just whenever you want to store the images in the system, you want to store videos in the system, you can apply a number of compression techniques to just limit the storage capacity of your images. Next is colored images. Again, in today's world we are dealing with the just colored images. So how to process these colored images? A number of color mechanisms are there, RGB, CMY, a number. So how to store those colored images? So these are the just the stages of the computer vision system. But if we want to link this computer vision with AI, then we can say, in these portions, you can say at every portion, image enhancement, even segmentation, recognition, description, at each phase you can apply artificial intelligence. So what is machine learning? Machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence that provides computers with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Now, see, if we see the term machine learning, then that means we want that our machine should learn. As human learns, similarly, machine should learn. So we can see in this case, we have some labeled data and some machine learning algorithm is there. By seeing this data, the machine learns itself without being explicitly programmed. Now, till now, we say what computer does. Computer does the same thing as the programmer apply. That is, whatever the instructions are given by the programmer, the computer executes according to that. But in case of machine learning, we say our machine also learns from the data. So first, once your machine has learned something, after that, whenever you give any data, according to that learning, your machine will predict that is this image is this. For example, if we relate this machine learning to human learning, we can see when a newborn child is there or when a small child is there, the child doesn't know anything, but we make him learn how that it is a fan, it is a car. Now how the child learns? The child makes some algorithm, or you can say some internal processing is done, and according to the features, according to the model built in the brain, the child learns that is this object is this. Now we same thing is here. That is, we just, in case of machine learning, we provide the features, and according to the features the machine learns. So in case of machine learning, there are different type of learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. Supervised learning means learning with a labeled training set. Then that means we give labeled training set. That is, the meaning of this is this, the meaning of this is this. For example, here, email spam detector. Then that means initially in the training time, we will train the system by giving some example. These type of emails are spam and these type of emails are true emails. Now, if we give this training data that is with labeled data, that is these emails are spam and these are true mails, then from this labeled data, you can say machine learns. But in case of unsupervised learning, we will not provide any labeled data. Machine itself learns and itself discovers the pattern in the unlabeled data. For example, cluster similar document based on text content. We are providing a number of documents to the system. Now we say the system should cluster those documents depending upon the nature of the documents. So the system itself find that is patterns. If some sport terms are there, then it will identify that these documents are related to sports. But if medical terms are there, the system itself identify that is this document belongs to medical field. Then that means here we will not provide any labeled data. The system itself learns by seeing and by discovering patterns in all the documents. Now next is reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is just, we can say, learning based on feedback or reward. For example, learn to play chess by winning or losing. That is, if we say the first time any game is played, chess game is played, if the system wins, then it will learn according to that. But if the system lose, it will learn according to that. Then that means here, learning based on feedback. That is, last time what type of you can say in the last training, what type of feedback is there, whether it is a reward or not. So according to that, the system will learn whether the system has won or lost. According to that, the system will learn. So these are the three type of machine learning techniques, that is supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Now see, next is deep learning. If we say machine learning, you can see in case of machine learning, in case of computer vision. So we can see in case of computer vision, this is an image. And in case of machine learning, as I have already explained, the human being will extract the features and will feed to the system, and the system learns from those features. Then that means some handcrafted features will be there. Syst- Only the image will not be given as an input to the system. First image is there, then some algorithms are there for the feature extraction. As I have already explained, a number of feature extraction algorithms are there. LBP feature extraction, statistical feature extraction, histogram of gradient feature extraction. So any algorithm you will apply, and those features are given to your system, and depending upon those features, the system will identify the image. So we can say in case of machine learning, the features are extracted from the image using some algorithm or human expertise, and then these features are sent to machine learning algorithm to learn the pattern for the classification. But in case of deep learning, how deep learning is different from machine learning? We can say it is just a subfield of machine learning. In this, we do not extract the features. Handcrafted features are not there. The input is image and the output is just the prediction. Then that means the system itself will extract the features from these images. So we can say deep learning reduces the gap between human thinking and machine thinking. As I have already explained, we want that the machine should behave like a human. Machine, machine should have the same capability as human beings have. And the major activity, major ability of humans is vision. And how vision is possible for in case of humans? Because of human intelligence power, or you can say human thinking. So same thing is here. This deep learning reduces the gap between the human thinking and machine thinking. So that is, now deep learning is just, we can say, has entire complex neural structure of the brain. As we say, our brain has a number of neurons. So in case of deep learning, we again say the entire complex neural structure of the brain is being demonstrated by deep convolutional neural network. So now we will just go into this deep learning, how deep learning makes possible, or how deep learning is going to solve the problems of computer vision. And one of my research scholar even has done some analysis on some particular problem, and he has identified that is in 2014, 16, 17, 18, and 19, deep learning models are just improving, uh, or you can say deep learning algorithms are just improving the computer vision algorithms as compared to the machine learning algorithms. So now we will discuss what is deep learning and what is neural network.
Right.
So what is deep learning? Deep learning is large neural network. An artificial neural network learning algorithm or neural network is a computational learning system that uses a network of functions to understand and translate a data input of one form into a desired output. So we can see here at the left hand side, this is an image of a cat. Now, when this image is fed to the system, what will be the input? The input will be the pixel intensities only. The input will be the pixel intensities. So depending upon, we can say here the size of image is 256 into 256, and here we can say when this 256 into 256, and because it is RGB, red, green, and blue colors, so when these pixel intensities are fed to the this system, neural network system, then that means here we are giving only the intensity values. Now neural network performs some type of computations on this data, and then gives the probability, that is 97% probability is there, it is a cat. and 1% probability is there it is dog, and 2% probability is there it is any other picture. So we can say this is just your neural network. Deep learning is just your large neural network. So what is this large neural network? Basically, neuron is the basic unit of a neural network. A neuron takes inputs, does some math with them, and produces one output. So we can see here it is a neuron. Some inputs are given, then some mathematical operations are done on these, you can say, inputs, and after that, it will give some output. Now, what are those mathematical operations? So we can see here the mathematical operations are just, you can see here, f of function of b plus sigma I is equal to 1 to n xi wi. So we can say xi to xn, what are these? These are the inputs. And w1 to wn, what are these? These are the weights. And this is just a bias. So we can say every input is multiplied by some weight and summation is done. So we can say I is equal to 1 to n summation of xi wi, and some bias is added to this summation. So and then after that you apply some function on this result. Some activation function is applied to the sum. This is how actually a neuron works. Now, why these activation functions are there? See, when we compute this term, that is b plus summation I is equal to 1 to n xi wi, because these inputs, these weights can be negative terms. Similarly, we can say here a range will be there. This function will be a continuous function, and we want that is just this function decides whether a neuron should be activated or not by calculating weighted sum and further adding bias with it. The purpose of the activation function is to introduce non-linearity into the output of a neuron. Now see, this function is just like this. If f of x is equal to x, then that means a linear function. If we say this is just the same thing, whatever we have computed here, that should be same, then that means that is a linear function. But if we say we apply some activation functions, for example, a number of activation functions are there, sigmoid, tan h, ReLU, L ReLU, P ReLU, again different type of functions are there. So according to that your output will be there. For example, in case of ReLU, we say if this has the negative term, if after summation and adding bias this term is negative, then the output should be 0. But if it is positive, it should behave like this. That is ReLU function. Similarly, other type of functions are there, sigmoid, tan h, and by applying different type of activation function, your network will behave differently. So for any problem, you can try different type of activation function and you can see the comparison. But if we see in today's world, today's deep learning models, the mostly used activation function is ReLU function. But sometimes tan h and sigmoid activation functions are also used. For example, here, this is just an example of a neuron having only two inputs. We can say here W is 0 and 1 and bias is 4. W1 is 0 and W2 is 1. And if the input is 2 comma 3, then you can calculate this. That is 0 into 2 plus 1 into 3 plus 4. So 7 is there. So you can see here f of 7. F of 7 and further f of 7, if you apply some other type of activation function, for example here sigmoid activation function has been applied, then the value of y is 0.999. Then that means it gives, it is just if we have a single neuron deep learning network, then we say 99% probability is there for these type of inputs. So next is feed forward neural network. Now we have understood example of a single neuron, but in case of deep learning model, we do not have a single neuron. we have a multiple neurons. We have different type of neural networks, and the majorly used neural network is feed forward neural network. So feed forward neural network, in case of feed forward neural network, we have one input layer and one output layer, and in between a number of hidden layers are there. So input layer is the first layer of the network, and it is used to provide input data or features to the network. And output layer is which gives the predictions. The activation function to be used in this layer is different for different problems. Activation function that you used at the output layer is different for different type of problems. For example, if binary classification problem is there, the output should be either 0 or 1, so the sigmoid activation function is used. But in case of a multi-class classification problem, softmax function is used. And hidden layer, a feed forward neural network, applies a series of functions to the input. By having multiple hidden layers, we can compute complex functions. If we say deep learning model, then that means rather than having a single hidden layer, we are having a number of hidden layers. That is why these networks are called deep networks. Now next is how these networks learn actually. Now see, we have seen that is in case of these neural networks, we apply some input, some weights are there, some bias is there, and applying some function, we calculate the output. Now, this is a simple procedure. Then the how training is done. Now see, as we have already discussed, in case of training, we provide labeled data. So we know what should be the actual output. And whenever at the training time we give some sample to the network, and the network computes, because what is there here, x1 to xn we give as an input, but weights are dynamically initialized. जो what these weights are dynamically or randomly initialized by the network. Let us suppose these weights are initialized all zeros, and with all zeros the network will give some output. But if the output does not match with your label, then that means some error is there. Now this error is back propagated. So we can see network learns with the help of back propagation algorithm. The error is used to change the weights of the neurons such that the error decreases gradually. So training a network means trying to minimize its loss. So we can see when this output does not match with your label, some error is there. So the error is back propagated. According to the error, these weights are now changed. Now, when these weights are changed, again we can see the same input is given, again the output is calculated, again if some error is there, again error is back propagated, and in this way your network tries to learn. So we can say neural network learns with the help of back propagation algorithm. What is propagated back? Error is propagated back. So what type of error? Now this error is just, we can say, we take with the help of gradient. That is, we just calculate differentiation gradient. So in this case, one problem is there, that is vanishing gradient problem. So we can say vanishing gradient problem is encountered when training artificial networks with gradient based learning algorithms. Now see here how the weights change. Now you can see in such methods, each of the neural network's weights receive an update proportional to the partial derivative of the error function with respect to the current weight in each iteration of the training. And if we say at every time, it can happen that is the gradient is very small. And when the gradient is very small, weights do not change. If the error is there but gradient is small, then that means your network will stop further training. So we can see here another type of problems are also there in case of this gradient. One is local minima, one is global minima. That is, whenever we say error is there, it may be there. That is, the error is reduced to your local minima. That is, you say that is this is the minimum error that you can achieve. But there is other type of other minimum is also there. This type of problem is also there. Now next is, how if error is there, how much weight should be changed, learning day rate should be there. So different type of we can say models can be there, or different type of hyper parameters can be there on which we can train our network. So we can say the amount by which the weights are changed is determined by a parameter called learning rate. That is, if some gradient is there, then depending upon that gradient, how the weight should be changed, what should be the learning rate. So a number of algorithms are there, number of optimizers are there to change the attributes, weights of the neural network, such as weights and learning rate. So a number of optimizers are there: stochastic gradient descent, momentum, RMS prop, ADAM, ADA grade. So each of these optimizers have its own mechanism how to change the weight and how to change the learning rate. Again, you can apply on your deep learning model. You can try these different type of optimizers, and you can see which optimizer is best for your problem. But mostly the deep learning models that the optimizers are used, Adam optimizer is used, or stochastic gradient descent is used. So now, what is the error again? That is, as I have already said, that is, here some error is computed. What type of errors can be computed? Loss functions. These functions are called loss functions. For example, mean square error, binary cross entropy. A number of different loss functions are there. Even if you say different type of computer vision problem, these are the general loss function. A number of loss functions are there for different type of problem. You will see in the research paper different loss functions have been used. For example, in case of identification and verification, triplet loss is there. uh, but here I am explaining only mean square error. So here you can see here y true minus y predict square root. All of you know what is mean square error. Next is binary cross entropy. Binary cross entropy will calculate a score that summarizes the difference between the actual and predicted probability. This is for binary class problems. And multi-class cross entropy, it will calculate a score that summarizes the average difference between the actual and the predicted probability. Some other terms that are associated with deep learning models, one is the epoch and one is the batch. What is epoch? When you see, whenever you train your deep learning models, you give a parameter that is epoch. How many epochs should be given to train your network? So what is epoch? It is just a one pass of training data set through the network in both backward and forward direction. That means if 40 epochs are there, and you have your training data set 100, then that means 40 times 100 samples are passed to your network. One is batch. Even in case of deep learning models, one term that you will see, that is batch size. What is batch size? Just you divide your training data set into different subsets. For example, if you have a data set of 200 samples and you chose a batch size of 5 and 100 epochs, then that means data set will be divided into 40 batches. 200 samples are there, 5 is the batch size, then that means how many batches are there? 40 batches will be there, and each batch will have 5 samples, and the model weights will be updated after every batch rather than after every training. The model will be updated after a batch, because 100 epochs are there, then that means whole data set will pass 100 times. So we can say 40 batches are there, and 100 times, then that means total of 4,000 batches during the entire training process. So we can say more than one epoch is whenever we say deep learning model, we do not train our model single time. A number of epochs are given to the train to the model. So there are two type of problems in case of training our deep learning model. One is the underfitting problem, and one is the problem of overfitting. What is underfitting and what is overfitting? Underfitting occurs when the model is not learned well and not powerful enough to get correct predictions on unseen data. Or otherwise, when you can say your training data is not good and your model does not learn well. But overfitting. Overfitting means when our model learns well on the training data, but model does not give correct output, correct predictions for the output data. Then that means the model has been overfitted on the training data. So we can say the complexity of the model increases such that the training error reduces, but the testing error does not reduce. So we can say regularization is a technique that makes slight modifications to the learning algorithm such that model generalize better. So to avoid the problem of overfitting and underfitting, some type of regularization is done. So a number of regularization techniques are there. I will not again go to into detail these type of techniques because I have some other material that I want to explain. You can go through these topics. What are the different type of regularization techniques? That is L2 and L1 regularization. Dropout. Dropout means just you will drop some of the neurons. You at that whenever you design the model, at that time you will specify how many neurons can be dropped out that are unnecessary. Then early stopping means when you can apply just a patience level whenever you train your model. That is, if your model does not improve on the validation data, then you can stop the training. So this is called early stopping. Next is data augmentation. What is data augmentation? Data augmentation means if we have a very little data for the training. So if we have very little data for the training, then we cannot train the model well. So a number of augmentation techniques are applied to just increase the size of the training data. That is, we can rotate the images, we can flip the images. So just we are going to increase the training data side. So this is just an example. We can say this is the whole implementation of feed forward neural network using keras in Python. That is, here we can say you have to create a model keras.layers, then you will compile your model. After compilation you will train your model. Now this trained model is there. Now some testing data is given and the evaluation of the model is done. You can calculate loss and you will get predictions. So this is just a small example of a feed forward neural network using keras. Here simple neural network has been designed on the MNIST database. So from the TensorFlow library, Keras dataset, import MNIST. Then we can say import two categorical. These are just your shape. We can say packages that we are importing for this. Then here just input data has been converted into the classes and training dataset size. This is just all that is display the first image. This is not I am just want to explain this. Now you can see here model has been created. We can say here model is equal to sequential, then that means a sequential model has been created. First time we are adding a dense layer having 512 neurons, then again dense layer 512 neurons, again dense layer 512 neurons. This is just, we can say, the model has been created. We can see here first is the create model by adding the layers using the keras library. So here, these sequential and dense, we can see here dense layer has been imported from the Keras library, and we have added here 3 dense layers and the last dense layer for the classification. And here you can see the activation function that has been applied is the ReLU activation function. And at the last layer we have applied the softmax. Why softmax? Because MNIST database is a 10 class database. We have basically 0 to 9 digits in this database, so 10 classes are there, multi-class problem is there. That is why we have applied here softmax activation function. And again, when after the creation of the model has been compiled, and the here optimizer has been used RMS prop, and the loss is categorical cross entropy, because again multi-class problem is there. Now when the model has been compiled, next training is done. Training is done with the help of model.fit function. Here we are giving train data, then train labels, batch size. Then we can say after training, model evaluation of the model has been done. And then we are seeing, you can see this is the training, whatever the data set, this is just importing of data set, plotting. Then this is the output, and these are the evaluation results. That is just loss is 15% and accuracy is 98. So these are the training and loss curves. Training, validation, accuracy and loss curves, we can see here this is the training loss and this is the validation loss. Again, this is the training accuracy and this is the validation accuracy. So this is all about feed forward neural network. Now, in case of images, rather than applying simple feed forward neural networks, we use the concept of convolutional neural network. If any of you have learned the subject digital image processing, then I think you should know what is the meaning of convolution. Basically, what is a convolution? You apply a filter on each pixel of the image and perform some type of computations, and after that you will get some output. Then that means if you have a 3 into 3 filter, then just 3 into 3 filter the center, I think, yes, here convolutional layer. Convolution layer is the first layer in the neural network to extract the feature from the image. It consists of a mathematical function which takes as input an image and a feature map to provide the extracted features. Now you can see, let us pose this as our image. And this is our filter. Now we can see here, when convolution is applied, this filter is just placed here. We can see this filter is placed here. 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1. Now you can say how the value is calculated. 7 into 1, 2 into 0, 3 into minus 1, 4 into 1, 5 into 0, 3 into minus 1, 3 into 1, 3 into 0, 2 into minus 1. So when you multiply and add, the resultant value is 6. So here we will get 6, and when one stride is given. Now you can see first filter is placed here. After that, the filter is just changed by 1. You can see here. Now again this computation is done and this value you will get. And this procedure is repeated for each and every pixel. Now you can see this is convolution. So here one thing is there. First, the input image is of size 5 into 5, but the output image is of size 3 into 3. Why? Because when we apply this convolution operation, this central pixel is placed at this 5. But when this central pixel is placed at the 7, then we have to perform some extra padding to the input image. That is, if we want the same size of the output image as of the input image, then we have to apply padding to the input image. Now this padding can be of different type, whether you are can repeat the border pixels as such, or you can have zero padding like this. So this is the convolution operation. Now see, in this we can see, in case of convolutional neural network, we have a number of convolutional layers. As in case of simple feed forward neural network, we are just giving the pixel values to the network. But here, rather than giving as such pixel value to the neural network, we are giving convoluted output to the neural network. So this convolutional neural network has a number of layers: convolutional layer, pooling layer, batch processing layer, flatten layer. Flatten layer is same that we have seen in case of feed forward neural network. Now see, if we have colored image, but what will be there in the colored image? Again, we will apply this filtering operation, this convolution operation with every channel. That is red channel, green channel, and blue channel. And after that, we will do the summation. For example, here, let us suppose this is the red channel, these are the intensities green, and this is the blue. Here you can say zero padding has been done at the border of the image, and we apply kernel channel 1 this, kernel channel 2 this, kernel channel 3 this. So you can see the values that we have applying filter to the each channels are like this: 308 minus 498, and the summation is done. This is just a bias, and the resultant value you will get like this. So now you can see here convolution on a colored image. Suppose that the input image is of size 32 into 32 into 3. That is, the input size is this. And we are using 3 into 3 into 3 kernel. So when we are using 3 into 3 into 3 kernel, we will see because we are not applying any zero padding or any other type of padding here, the convolved image will be 30 into 30 into 1. Why 1 here? Because all these three channels have been added now, as we have seen in last slide. That is, each of the output has been added and it is giving a single output. So even the size of the image, that is the width and height of the image, will be reduced. So now if we see, we want to apply a number of filters rather than having a single filter. What is a filter? Filter are just like these kernels. So now in this kernel, you are seeing the value 0, -1, 1 like this, but we can change the order of these filters. So if we want to extract different type of features of an image, then rather than having a single filter, can have a number of filters. So let us suppose we are applying 32 filters. Then that means now we are having 32 images having size 30 into 30. So we can see typically we use more than one filter in one convolution layer. If we use 32 filters, we will have an activation map of size 30 into 30 into 32. So the number of weights, how many number of weights will be there? Each filter is of size 3 into 3. Each filter need 9. So 32 filter needs 288 weights, and the number of biases are 32. So now you can see here stride, also the function of stride, as we have seen in the last example, we are striding the window by 1 pixel. That is, if this was the filter, first time the filter is applying to this area, the next time filter is applying to this area. Now in this case, we can see here filter is to this, here filter is to this. Now then that means here we are striding by 2 rather than by single pixel. We can also stride by more than 1 pixel. So that that parameter is referred as stride. So generally we slide by 1 pixel, but if we want to slide by more than 1 pixel, then in case of this deep learning model, we have to specify stride. That stride should be equal to 2, 3, etc. Now from this, we can see why this CNN concept of CNN is used, because CNN learns hierarchical features. If you see this figure, now see, this is an image of a cat and we are applying a convolution filter at this portion. Now, when a convolution operation is performed at this portion will be mapped to a single pixel here, single value. So again, this portion will be mapped to this value. Now you can see here the larger portion, this larger portion, so much larger portion is mapped to this portion. Now again, when at the next layer, convolution is performed at this. So you can say the whole of this area will map to a small area. Similarly here, you can see this. And here, this whole area will map to this third layer. So you can see here in the first layer, the square marked 1 is obtained from the area in the image where the leaves are painted. You can see here where the leaves are painted. And in the second layer, the square marked 2, the square marked 2 is obtained from the bigger square in layer 1. You can see here bigger square in layer 1. So the numbers in this square are obtained from multiple regions from the input image. Now you can see here, if you see this area, this is obtained from this square and this is obtained from this. So you can say this small is corresponding to this whole large area. Similarly, in the third area, the cascading effect result in the square mark 3 being obtained from a large region around the leg area. Now you can see here, this 3 is this whole leg area. So we can see now, the initial layers are looking at the smaller regions of the image and thus can only learn simple features like edges, corners, etc. As we go deeper into the network, the neurons gets information from larger parts of the image and from various other neurons. So we can say CNN learns hierarchical features. Then that means the first layer learns the, just you can say, simpler features, but the later layer learns semantic features. So we can say that is why in case of computer vision, in case of images, we use the concept of deep neural network, but convolutional neural network rather than simple feed forward neural network. If you say deep learning in computer vision, then that means the base of deep learning in computer vision is this, that is CNN, convolutional neural network. And this is the whole reason why we use CNN in case of images. Now, next type of layer that can be used in this CNN is pooling layer. What is pooling layer? Basically, pooling layer is used to reduce the spatial size. As I have already discussed, in case of computer vision, we say, as even in the last slides, we have discussed that it's a number of computations you have to perform whenever you are using CNNs. Then that means if the data is too much, if the size is too much, then that means more time is required, more space is required. But if you reduce the size, then some time can be saved. So that is just, you can say, can be done with the help of pooling layer. So pooling layer is mostly used immediately after the convolutional layer to reduce the spatial size. This reduces the number of parameters, hence the computation is reduced. So using fewer parameter avoid overfitting, and it is also called downsampling or spatial pooling. How it is performed? For example, let us suppose this is our input. Now, rather than having the whole as such, we apply some type of pooling. For example, in this case, I have applied max pooling. Now, if I am applying max pooling, I have to specify the area. For example, here I am using 2 into 2 filters and stride 2. 2 into 2 filters, then that means the size of the filter is this. So here we can say that what is the max value? Max value is 7. Then next, you can see this. In this, this is the example of this. Now from this, 5, 2, 4, 7. What is the maximum value? 7. 3, 3, 6, 4. What is the maximum value? 6. 8, 2, 8, 6, 4, 2, 8, 6. What is the maximum value? 8. Similarly, this has been shown here. This is the input image and this is the output image after applying the max pool. Now, next type of layer is flattening layer. Flattening layer is just that is whenever you get the convolutional output, you will get that output in the form of 2D array. And just to convert that 2D array into a 1D array so that next time you can have a feed forward neural network or simple dense layer. This is called flattening layer. Now, this is just you can say the implementation of a convolutional neural network using Keras. Here, in the last implementation, when we have implemented simple feed-forward network using Keras library, at that time, here we have discussed only the dense layer. But here, I am adding conv 2D layer, convolution layer in 2 dimension. 32. What is 32 here? Number of filters. Then 33. This is the size of the filter. Padding. As I have explained already, what is padding? Same. That is, you can replicate same border pixels or you can apply zero padding. Activation, ReLU function. Again, next type of, you can say here, convolution layer. Here, no padding has been done. Then max pool layer, and here pool size, that is filter size, has been specified. Dropout, I have explained dropout in case of regularization. That is whenever you want, that is if some neurons are there that are not just training your network, you can drop such type of neurons. Here I have just mentioned that 25% of the neurons can be dropped. Again, some other, because I am just here building a deep convolutional neural network, that is why you can add many more convolution layers. Next time convolution layer has been added with 64 filters. Again, 64 filters. At last, flatten layer has been added, then dense layer, and then dropout layer, and the last layer is just number of classes. That means here whatever you can see in this case of convolutional network, you can see here, that is how many number of classes are there. At last time you have to mention this. So in this case, as you can see here in this diagram, that is, this was your input image. This was the convolution with 5 into 5 valid padding has been done. Some max pooling is done. When max pooling has been done, size has been reduced. Then again convolution has been done, and again max pooling is done. Here flattening has been done, then dense layer has been added with dropout, and at last 10 classes are there. So this is whole concept of convolutional neural network and how it is implemented using Keras library. Again, same things are there. Once you have been created your model, after that you can just fit your model and then evaluate your model. So here we can say this is the training loss, this is the validation loss, this is the training accuracy and the validation accuracy. Here we can see much improvement is there in case of convolutional neural network as compared to your feed forward neural network. Now in today's era, even more advanced thing of deep learning is there, but that is called transfer learning. What is transfer learning? It is the advanced field. Now see, in case of deep learning, we have seen a number of weights you have to learn. A number of weights. If we see linear algebra, if you see linear algebra, then in case of linear algebra, if you have one variable, then you need one equation. If you want to solve two variables, you want to get two variables, then you need two equations. But here a number of weights are you have to learn. Then that means a number of training data should be there. So rather than in some type of problem, for example, in case of medical problems, you do not have such large amount of training data. So then what should be done? Then the concept of transfer learning is used. What is transfer learning? That is the knowledge acquired from the previous, but in some other domain, can be used to solve some other type of problem. Then that means if you have built a model, but you have trained on one type of data, and the same model you want to apply on some other type of problem, then you will use the concept of transfer learning. So transfer learning is an advanced field of deep learning in which a solution or algorithm made to solve one problem can be used to solve another problem. So, for example, model generated for the recognition of trucks can be used for recognition of cars. Excuse me. So, again, same thing has been explained here. The concept of transfer learning. That is why we use transfer learning. That is, deep neural networks have a large number of unknown parameters. So if we have a linear algebra and we want to solve with three unknown parameters, we need three equations. And if we have a number of parameters, you need a number equation, then that means more data. So that means deep network means more data, better training. But if you have even more data, then to train the network, you need a lot of time. So we can say we can leverage the models already trained on very large amount of data for difficult tasks with thousands of classes. The models have been trained on millions of images and for hundreds of hours on powerful GPUs. Most often we use this model as a starting point for our training process. That means already learned models on some other domain can be used to solve some other type of problems rather than training the model from the scratch. So again, these are just how traditional learning is different from transfer learning. In case of traditional learning, different tasks are there, different training and different learning algorithms there. But in case of transfer learning, you have just trained your model, you have acquired some knowledge, and that knowledge can be used to solve some target task. Now, again, this transfer learning can be used using two methods. One is by using fine tuning, and one is by using as such pre-trained network. As such, in case of as such pre-trained network, you use the models as such. That is only the last layer is changed. But in case of fine tuning, already learned models again trained on your target problem. Then that means you fine tune your system. So now if we see state of the pre-trained models, in case of object classification, a number of pre-trained models are available that are trained on ImageNet dataset. So the models for the object classification, object recognition problems are VGG16, Inception, ResNet, MobileNet. So all these deep learning models have different type of architectures and different type of ideas. And for detection, different models are there. That is RCNN, fast RCNN, single show detector, YOLO, RetinaNet. A number of deep learning libraries models are provided by the computer vision people. Now, next are the research areas where these deep learning, where these computer vision can be applied. So, most of the research areas, you are see people are working in these areas. For example, first is the character recognition. In this, you can work on machine printed documents, on handwritten documents, on scene images. Again, for each type of these problems, you can have different type of other domains. You can recognize characters, fonts, layout. Even in case of handwritten, you can recognize the script, you can recognize the writer. Then in case of scene images recognition, language conversion. In case of biometric authentication, computer vision is applied. Face recognition, fingerprint recognition, hand recognition, even multimodal biometric systems are there. Even in this case, a different type of domains are there. For example, you can apply computer vision to identify a human or to verify a human. Similarly, in this case, some attacks are there. Then that is biometrics are not original biometrics are there. Fake biometrics are there. So you can apply computer vision algorithm whether the input is fake or real. So biometric presentation attack detection, this is a domain in which you can work. Next is agriculture. In case of agriculture, you can see field robotics are there. Grading and sorting, you can identify good crops from the bad crops. livestock identification, that is to provide important information about the progress towards harvesting, phenotyping to identify the best breeds, then machine guidance to guide autonomous tractors and other vehicles in variable outdoor conditions. Next is you can apply computer vision in medical field just to fast, accurate and timely diagnosis of a disease, then surgical simulation, surgical assistance, then managing clinical trial and retention. In these fields you can work. Then in case of satellite images, just to for the prediction of retailers profit by counting cars on the parking lots, then that means just to capture the images, satellite images, and just from those images you can perform this type of operations. You can predict crop yield and price prediction, world's oil inventory by detecting shadows on them, detection of certain type of areas like hills, rivers, crowded places, etc. Then in computer vision is even used in case of self-driving cars, automatic cars, for the lane line detection, obstacle and road sign light detection, steering angle computation. The next is computer vision can also be used for traffic control, that is vehicle classification, vehicle ID via number plate, congestion data. So these are my references from where I have prepared this my talk. Thank you.